Atari games. The reason we have most video games today. And I'm going to show you how I poorly made one. I'm sure some of you don't know, so I'm going to explain what an Atari is. Specifically, an Atari 2600. It's this. The console came out in 1997, making it 45 years old. I have an Atari 800, which is this. And it's 43 years old, but it's also backwards compatible with the games from the 2600. The 800 is a personal computer which can play games and run code where you write, whereas the 2600 can just play games. These games were varying in quality from, pretty good standard game to needing to be buried in a New Mexico landfill. That's not a joke, look it up. The games were played with a joystick and a button. Very basic controller. I'll show one on screen now. And this didn't allow for much variety. It was basically space shooter and reskin space shooter. Sometimes there was a racing game and actually Adventure. That was a pretty good game, which was different, but it was mostly just space shooters, which is cool, but there wasn't much variety. So you might be asking, why am I making one? Hi, it's me again. I forgot to plug my Twitch and Twitter, which are both linked below in the description, so check those out and you can see me streaming some quality Warzone gameplay and other select games. Probably Terraria. I play a lot of Terraria. Whatever, just go check it out. That'd be cool. Okay, before we do anything, we need to clarify some things here. Yes, I do have a genuine Atari 800 in the programming manuals for the languages on it. I will be demonstrating how to write some basic code on it and other simple scripts. Now, however, I'm sure you can imagine it's pretty difficult to capture video and good footage of a 43-year-old console running on a TV that's also probably at least 30 years old. Foreshadowing. So I'm going to use an emulator to actually run code and compile my game. Eventually, yes, I will port it back, which might become a video in the future. But for now, I'm just going to use an emulator to program it. Also, no complaining about how this is clickbait in the comments. Also, if you want to pick up one of these consoles, you can for $50. I don't know why you would, but if you collect, you might want to. Okay, so before we actually make this game, I'm going to do a little demonstration on how you used to program and make games on this console here. Also, sorry about all the clutter and terrible echo and walls missing walls. You know that joke about recording in your parents' basement? Well, there's more truth to it than you suspect. So, the first thing we need to do, if we actually want to program on this thing, is take our Atari Basic cartridge. But what you do with this cartridge, take it here, open it up, stick it in the machine. But we need one more thing before we start. Floppy disk. So then we take this, stick it into the drive. And we also turn on the TV. And there you go. So then what you used to have to do to learn how to program on something like this is you'd have one of these books that came with every console. So let's make something. And nothing better to do for a simple script than the old Hello World. Programming on this is a lot harder because a lot of the keys are not in the normal position they would be on a modern keyboard. And once you have your command, you just hit the return key. And there you go. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is to show you what we'll be missing by using an emulator over there. And honestly, missing is not very accurate because this sucks. Now, but I am going to show you the way you would actually save something like this. You have to type a command here to, I think it's dsave, and then the name of your program. And then once you do that, you have to run Atari DOS to actually be able to run the program, which I believe is just this command, right? That would take about 2 milliseconds to load on a modern computer. But then you have all this, and then you just run your program. And then you just click L to load, and then you click load from what file or whatever. But all that is needlessly complicated and boring. So instead, we're gonna go over there. I mentioned that I would be at my desk in the next part, but the audio sounds a lot better where I am now, so I'm gonna just record it here while I'm here. Now, I know I mentioned we'll be using emulation to simulate this code, but how are we actually doing that? The first thing I had to do was download the language Atari Basic so you can code in Atari Basic like I demonstrated on the computer. Then I had to download Atari Basic Visual, so it actually gives you the tools to create things such as sprites, but you don't have to type 20 lines of code for one character. So with that out of the way, let's make the game, and I've already decided what it's gonna be. It's called Crab Crusher, and it's just a guy who beats up crabs. But let's stop talking about it and start making it. If you'd like to skip this coding part, then skip to this timestamp, but if you're cool and also a nerd like myself, watch this part. Let's explain this code. By the way, I put comments explaining everything. Everything in green is a comment, so if you want to pause the video and look at those, you can. You nerd. It's okay, I do the same for other videos. What was I saying? Oh, right. Now, see the play field right there? That's exactly what it sounds like. It's just an area where our character plays on. The X represent the colored squares, and the background are the dots and everything else. Directly below there, you see 4 lines that are very simple. They just define the colors of the play field and our character. Below that is where our player, he spawns in. Don't worry about the binary. What you do is you just make a sprite in a new window and then you drag that into the code. Below that is the same thing but for our enemy character. Then we're just defining how many lives we have. Now comes the fun stuff. Here we see the main loop, which I called main because if you know me, you know I believe in C++ supremacy. The line below that, draw screen, is pretty self-explanatory. Then we have more colors under that. Those are just player colors. Then we have the controls, which also marks our first if loop. The controls are represented with statements such as joy up and joy down, joy 0 up and joy 0 down, because this is an Atari game, and if we want to actually port it back onto the console it works with, then we're going to be using controllers. But since it's an emulator, it just works with arrow keys by default. I might be doing that porting back thing in the next video, by the way, so if you guys would like to see that, then comments. Then we have player missile definition. More on that later. After that's just the border collision, so you can't run off screen. Then cleverly named Crab-lisions that says missile from before is touching the crab, then add 1 to the score. Also, if the crab is touching the player, then take 1 away from the score. And they both say to respawn the crab at a random place. Then this is just AI, which is very basic. It just tells the crab to chase the player around. Now, if we compile it all together, what do we get? Beautiful. But this isn't an Atari game yet, because it doesn't have cover art, which does not at all accurately depict the game. Anyways, let's fix that. First, let's take some base artwork, clear out the stuff that'll get me cease and desist letters, find a background, put in the crab, get some characters, which are completely original. One for the oldies and one for the newbies. If either of these people are watching this video, seriously DM me on Twitter. I'd actually love to talk to you. Anyways, a little more work and... beautiful. Anyways, thanks for watching this video. If you want to download... But if you also would like to see me port this back onto an actual Atari, then tell me. So, yeah, hope you enjoyed. Please check out my Twitch and Twitter, and I hope to see you guys next time.